Good morning, everyone. My name is Lily, and I'm so happy to welcome you to this event called What Does Gabo Need? A Sled. We're going to be hearing from Emma Otegui. She is the author of the bilingual picture book Martí's Song for Freedom about Cuban poet and national hero José Martí, as well as the middle grade novel Silver Meadows Summer. Today, she's going to talk about her book, A Sled for Gabo, about a boy who is new in town and needs a sled to join the other kids. Enjoy!
Buenos dias. Hello, everyone. I am Emma Otegui. I am the author of A Sled for Gabo, which is written by me, Emma Otegui, illustrated by Ana Ramirez Gonzalez, and also available in Spanish, translated by Alexis Romay. I'm going to talk to you today about Gabo, the little boy in this book, about what it's like to be a writer, and about some of the very special treats that Gabo has in this story. So my name is Emma Otegui. I grew up in Nueva York, in New York, first in New York City and then in a little town outside of New York City. And one of the things that was special, que era especial, en mi casa when I was a kid, is that I grew up in a family where we spoke English and we spoke Spanish. Mis papás venían de Cuba. They came from Cuba, which is a country in the Caribbean where Spanish is spoken. And so when I was at home, we spoke Spanish, and I learned English when I went to preschool when I was around 4 or 5 years old. So everything I do, all of my writing, is about what it's like to be bilingual, lo que es ser bilingüe, ser latina, and about Latin American history and culture. So I'm very happy to be talking to you about A Sled for Gabo, because this is a story that is sort of like what it was like to grow up with my parents. So my parents are lovely people, but you remember how I told you that they came from this country called Cuba? Cuba is south of Florida. So if you know where Florida is, if you just imagine a straight line going south across a little stretch of water, you get to Cuba. It's also near Haiti and the Dominican Republic, near Puerto Rico. It's near the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. So Cuba is close to the United States, but also its own country. And it is somewhere where it is very sunny. There are palm trees. It is warm all year round. You don't have to wear a lot of layers in the winter because it's sunny out. It's warm. Well, has anybody ever been to New York, where I grew up, where I was born? Yeah, it's not warm in the winter here. It is cold. It snows in the winter here. So when I was a kid and it would be winter, we would have to deal with snow boots and snow pants and going sledding and all of the things you do on snow days, except my parents didn't know how to do any of those things because they had come from somewhere where it just wasn't a part of their lives growing up. So let's see. I know that you are in San Antonio. So in San Antonio, I hear it also does not snow. So, but you could probably imagine, if you use your imagination, what do you do on snow days? If it were to snow one day in San Antonio, what would you do? Well, maybe you would go sledding. What do you need to go sledding? You're going to need boots, you're going to need outerwear, and you're going to need a sled. So when I was a kid, this was all stuff that was really new to my family. And I want to show you what happens with Gabo, because it was very much like what my family did. So this is Gabo. Does Gabo have wool socks? No, his socks are made of cotton, not wool. Does Gabo have a hat? Oh, he has a hat, but it's too small. It has a little pom-pom, but it's too small. So what does Gabo have? Boots. Let's talk about Gabo's boots. Gabo doesn't have boots. He just has regular sneakers. And what does his mommy do? His mommy says, vamos a resolver. Let's figure it out. And they do. They figure it out. And what do they do to Gabo's sneakers? They tie plastic bags to Gabo's sneakers to keep out the snow. Gabo puts Papi's hat on his head to keep his head warm. And then he has to go and he has to find a sled. And this is the story of how Gabo, who doesn't have any winter gear, finds a sled. And what does he do? He uses something else as a sled. I'm going to show you a picture of what Gabo uses as a sled because he doesn't have a regular sled. What does he use? Let's see. I'm going to find you the picture. What does that look like? Gabo's madrina brings him this. And what does that look like? It's a plastic tray from a cafeteria, from a school cafeteria. That's what Gabo uses as a sled. I've talked to kids all over the country about this book, and they have told me different things that they have used as sleds. Do you want to hear some of the things I've heard? I've heard kids say that they have gone sledding on plastic trays, on the tops of garbage cans. One kid told me that they went sledding on a shower curtain, on a cookie tray, and on a cookie sheet that you use for baking. So Gabo sort of figures all this stuff out, just like my parents were always figuring out snow days. But even though there are challenges for Gabo that he has to figure out, que tiene que resolver, Gabo also has some very special, very unique gifts. And what are those unique gifts? I'm going to show you what some of them are. Gabo has that he's bilingual, es bilingüe. So he speaks Spanish and English. So when he moves to a new town, remember he moves somewhere where it snows. Maybe he comes from San Antonio and he moves to New York. He comes from somewhere where it snows. When he gets to his new town, puede hablar con más personas. He can speak to more people because he speaks both English and Spanish. Así que Gabo tiene que es bilingüe. ¿Qué más tiene Gabo? What other special skills does Gabo have? Gabo is somebody who loves animals. I'm going to show you Gabo and the animals because I think that it's something that you might understand. Do you have anybody in your life who just they love being around animals? They have a calm presence and energy. And when they're around animals, those animals just feel kind of calm and at peace. That's what Gabo is like. And so I'm going to show you a picture of him with some of the animals in his neighborhood. So this is Gabo with Missy Fu. Missy Fu is a cat who lives on the cover of a manhole and belongs to nobody and everyone at once. There's Missy Fu and Gabo. Let me show you another picture. There's Gabo playing with Missy Fu. There's another one of Gabo with Missy Fu. So he's very close to Missy Fu, the cat, who's a stray cat in the neighborhood. And he also becomes friends with Sancho, who is his neighbor, Senor Ramos's dog. So it's not his dog, but it's a neighbor's dog. And let me show you that dog, Sancho. Isn't Sancho such a very sweet dog? So that is another gift that Gabo has. He speaks Spanish, que tiene estos animales. And he also has some very sweet treats from Latin America. So sometimes kids say, oh, where is Latin America? What is that? Latin America is a whole region, a whole bunch of countries south of the United States. So some Latin American countries are Cuba, where my parents are from. Mexico is also a Latin American country. Venezuela, El Salvador. Many, many countries make up this region we call Latin America. And Gabo has some special treats from Latin America. What does he have? He has mango, and the mango has been cubed up for him. Where I live in New York City, you can buy mango where somebody has cut grooves into the side of the mango, and when you peel it open, when you pop it open, the cubes pop up, and you get a whole bunch of little mango cubes. He has mango. He has guayaba or guava. If you've never had guayaba, it's a little fruit. It's maybe the size of a clementine or a little smaller. It's green on the outside, and on the inside, it is like a bright ruby, maybe like a ruby red or like a very bright pink. It's a very, very bright color. And you can take that fruit and you can make a paste or a jam. So Gabo has guava jam. ¿Qué más tiene Gabo? He has dulce de leche. And remember I told you this story was inspired by my parents and my snow days? Dulce de leche is made, or the way my mom used to make it, is if you take a can, just a regular metal can of condensed milk, which you buy in New York, you buy them at the bodega, people buy them at the grocery store. So my mom and Gabo's mommy in the book would take a regular can of condensed milk and turn it into, if you boil it in water for long enough, it turns into dulce de leche, which Gabo enjoys with his new friend, the friend he makes in the book, Isa. So you have guava, mango, dulce de leche. ¿Y qué más tiene Gabo? Tiene algo más todavía. He has turrón. Can everybody say turrón? Turrón. It's sort of like it can be a difficult word to say sometimes, but it's also kind of fun to say. Turrón. And what is turrón? Turrón it's a sweet. It's made out of nuts, but it's sweet. It's like sugary. So it's like almost like if you took your favorite nuts, like almonds and peanuts, and you made a candy out of it with sugar. It comes in like a bar or like almost like a bark, like a flat bar. And it's sometimes kind of crunchy because of the nuts, but also kind of sticky because of all of the sugar in it. That's turrón. In my family, it's something, and in many people's families, it's something that we give each other at Christmas. You give people turrones at Christmas. So this book takes place when it's snowing. So where I live, it snows in January or February, so after Christmas. So Gabo has all of this leftover turrón from Christmas. That's something that we always had in my house. It would be like February. And we would have this turrón that was delicious at Christmas time, but was like starting to get a little stale, so you better use it quick. So Gabo thinks, oh, I want to make new friends in my new town, but I don't know anybody, and I don't have a sled. So I've got to meet people. But he says to himself, oh, I have these 2 pieces of Christmas turrón left over. Here's Gabo looking in his pocket. He's got these 2 pieces of Christmas turrón left over. And he thinks to himself, oh, if I have 2 pieces, I could, have one for myself and I could share one with a friend. Because if you've ever done this, you know that a good way to make a friend if somebody is new is to share food with them. Maybe if somebody moves onto your block or into your building, your parents say, oh, let's make them whatever your favorite meal is, whatever your favorite dish is, and bring it over to them so that they feel welcome. Or if somebody new comes to your school, maybe you share a treat from your lunchbox with them. A lot of times the way we make new friends is through food. So Gabo's like, oh, maybe I'll meet some of the kids in my new town if I can share my turrón with them. But Gabo's feeling really shy. So he's poor kid, he had to deal with the clothing, and now he has this turrón. He thinks maybe he could share it with a friend, but he's feeling really shy. But remember I told you he has those special gifts. So what does Gabo do? He makes a new friend because he speaks Spanish and he's become friends with Senor Ramos, his neighbor. And I'm going to show you. Hang on, let's get to this page. He makes a new friend, Isa, through Sancho, the dog. And Isa is the one who helps Gabo get up the bravery and become confident doing what? Going sledding on that plastic tray. So here are Gabo and Isa going sledding. There he is. Gabo's going sledding. So Gabo has all of these gifts that he uses to make friends. And I want to tell you 2 details about this book that relate back to my family. So I told you about how my parents, just like Gabo's family, are like, they didn't know how to handle any of the snow day gear because they came from somewhere warm. What else? My mom, when I was a kid, every time there was a snow day, instead of making hot chocolate, you always hear about people having hot chocolate on snow days. We never made hot chocolate. We always made dulce de leche on snow days, just like Gabo's mommy. Y también, you know where that dog Sancho showed up? See, you see Sancho here, this dog that Gabo became friends with, his neighbor's dog? Sancho is actually drawn from a real life dog. When I was a kid, we had a dog in my house named Sancho. And Sancho was not like any other dog because we adopted him off of our street. He showed up on our block one morning while we were all sleeping. Somebody left this dog on our street. And I'll tell you what happened. It was before I was born, so I don't remember it, but I've heard the story many times from my parents and from my older brother. My dad woke up one morning to go get the newspaper. This was when the newspaper would be delivered to people's doors. And he woke up one morning and he went down our driveway. We were living in Queens in New York City. And he gets to the end of the driveway and he goes to get the paper. And our neighbor shouts for him across the fence. It was a house that was sort of shared between us and our neighbor. The house was kind of divided in 2. So our neighbor was right there, right over the fence. And my dad goes over and he says to our neighbor, what's going on? And she points, and my dad looks at the fence, and there is a dog, a little puppy dog tied to the fence with a big red bow. And my dad was like, how did this dog get here? And Vicky, our neighbor, says, I just woke up this morning and the dog was here. And they realized that Vicky, our neighbor, had a reputation in the neighborhood as being someone who loved dogs. She had a lot of dogs in her yard, in her front yard. She was always feeding them. She was always buying toys for them. So people in the neighborhood knew, oh, she really likes dogs. So we think what happened was that someone who couldn't keep this dog left the dog for Vicky, hoping that, with the red bow, Vicky would take care of the dog. But Vicky was like, I don't think I can have another dog. I don't have space for another dog. I have so many already. And my dad was like, I've always kind of wanted a dog, but my wife, my mom, she doesn't want a dog. So I've never gotten one, but I've always kind of wanted one. Maybe I'll take him. And so my dad brought the dog home and he named him Sancho. And that dog was really my dad's dog and my brother's dog because they were the ones who really found him and adopted him. But he was also my dog for a little while when I was a kid. And so I always felt like, I don't know, Sancho was such a special dog because we had such a special way that we found him. It was such a special story. And so I was very glad that Sancho ended up in A Sled for Gabo. And he looked a little bit like this. He didn't look. Ana Ramirez Gonzalez, the illustrator, did such a beautiful job on these illustrations. So Sancho looked like this, and that he had a light brown coat like this. He was a dog of about this size. I think Ana made him a little bit probably more beautiful than my actual dog was. He was a mutt. But I love that Sancho is immortalized forever in this book. So these are actually some writing prompts. Teachers, if you're listening, these are some writing prompts that you can do after reading A Sled for Gabo. You can write about your pets. Who are your pets? And I want you to see from this book that your pets can be a dog that you adopted off the street, like my family adopted Sancho. Your pets can be a stray cat who lives in the neighborhood, like Gabo has this friendship with a stray cat. It can be, I know a lot of kids where I live in New York City that don't have dogs because it's kind of hard to have a dog in a small apartment, and most of us live in pretty small apartments here. A lot of people go to the dog run and see dogs there. So you can write about pets or the animals in your life. Maybe even that animal is your favorite stuffed animal. When I was a kid, I really felt close to my stuffed animal. So you can write about animals in your life. You can write about, if you live in San Antonio and maybe you've seen snow once, maybe you went somewhere where it snowed, you could write about your first snow day, or you can imagine what you're going to do on your first snow day. And I have some suggestions for you in this book, like you could make dulce de leche on your first snow day. You could go sledding on a creative object. You could make a list of other creative objects you could use to go sledding. So these are just some ideas of things you can do for A Sled for Gabo after you've read it, things you can write. I encourage you to read this book and to write about what you are inspired to write about. Another thing I've seen some students do in their writing for A Sled for Gabo is to write about a time that they went somewhere new. Because this is a book about Gabo, who moves from somewhere where it's very warm to somewhere very cold. But there are all sorts of new beginnings of times when we move. You could write about a time you moved from one apartment to another apartment, about a time you went from one school to another school. If you ever have moved from another country to a new one, you could write about that. So I encourage you to read this book and then to write about it. And I want to tell you now about the illustrator of this book, because I hope you are looking at these beautiful illustrations as I have been talking. Do you see that? That beautiful, I love Gabo here because I think he looks so cute. He just looks so, I don't know, he looks really adorable to me here. These illustrations were done by an illustrator named Ana Ramirez Gonzalez. And I love Ana's artwork. I think she did just a beautiful job. Ana is a Pixar artist, so she's worked on some of your favorite movies before she worked on A Sled for Gabo. And I'm going to show you some of my very favorite details about Ana's illustrations. So first of all, don't you love all the colors in this kitchen? Don't you wish you had such a colorful kitchen? And not only is the kitchen really colorful, let me show you some of the places where I think there are some other really beautiful colors. Let's look at the houses here. Look at the houses in A Sled for Gabo. Do you see how those houses are almost like, to me, they almost look like magical gingerbread houses at the beginning here. The houses sparkle and shine, and I really like that. So those are some of my favorite parts of the illustration are the houses. And then let's look at a detail that a child showed me actually when I was visiting his school. So you all remember meeting Misifu the cat in this scene, but let me show you the next scene where Gabo is talking to his neighbor, Señora Tobón. And look at Misifu the cat. Look at Misifu's expressions in these illustrations. So a kid pointed out to me once that they're really funny. I love this one especially because if you zoom in on Misifu, you're gonna see there's Misifu. Do you see that the cat is kind of looking at Gabo like, why is Gabo getting a treat and not me? That's another one of my favorite details from these illustrations. That's Gabo when he's sad because he doesn't have a sled. You can see that his plastic bags are starting to slip because at the end of the day, they're not really as good for keeping your feet warm as boots are. And then, of course, Sancho, I love. And the last detail I want to show you is Gabo's face when he finally does go sledding down the hill. I thought Anna really did a great job illustrating what Gabo's face was like when he was in the snow. So those are my favorite things about A Sled for Gabo. Si tú eres alguien que lee en español, si tú lees en español, este libro también existe en español. It is also available in Spanish. I'm going to show you the cover of that book. It's over here. Well, I won't grab it because I don't want to pull it off the shelf and drop it. But it's called Un Trineo para Gabo, and you can read Gabo's whole story en español. Así que este libro se publicó en inglés y en español, written by me, Emma Otegui, and illustrated by Ana Ramirez Gonzalez. One of the questions that kids ask me the most often is why I decided to become a writer. And here is what I am going to tell you. When I was a kid, I didn't always feel like I had a chance to say everything that I wanted to say. I'll tell you why. Remember I talked about my older brother, my older sister, my parents. So I am the youngest of three. And my older brother and my older sister, they never let me get a word in edgewise when I was a kid. I felt like everything I had to say, I had all of these ideas and they were so important. But there were always so many people around and so many people who had other things to say. And what I learned was that when I wrote my words, I got to share them with more people and share the world the way I saw it. And here were some of the things I wanted to share. I wanted to share what it was like when my mom made dulce de leche. Here it is, dulce de leche being made on the stove. I wanted to share what that was like when I was a kid, for my mom to make dulce de leche. I wanted to share what it was like when my mom used to say, not always about this problem, but about other related problems. My mom always used to say, vamos a resolver, which means let's figure it out. And I remember my mom saying vamos a resolver because it's one of those expressions that just sort of means we're going to work together and we're going to solve this problem and we're going to do the best we can. So I wanted to write about what it was like to have my mom saying vamos a resolver. I wanted to write what it was like having a snow day if your parents are from a place like the Caribbean, like my parents, where it was warm. And so that's why I became a writer, is I had these stories that I really wanted to share. Another question kids ask me are, how are books made? And the answer to that is actually one that you might already know, even though you don't think you know, which is that I have a writer's notebook. This is what my writer's notebook looks like. It is a marble notebook, just like I had, I think starting in the first grade when I was a kid, I had a writer's notebook that was also a notebook that looked almost exactly like this one. And this is where I write. I'm going to show you a few pages of my notebook. Okay. What you have to understand is that I went to school at a time when people learned to write in cursive. So I'm going to show you the inside of my notebook and you're going to be like, are those even words? Like, what is she writing? It's because it's written in cursive, because that's how I learned to write. So this is what a page in my writer's notebook looks like. Let me show you. This is a page in my notebook. And if you see, what are there in the margins? there are a lot of doodles. And I show you my doodles because I want you to know that when I start writing, because when you read my books, you're like, oh, her books look really nice because they have Ana Ramirez Gonzalez's illustrations. The words are typed up and the words look so nice on the page. Like even, let me show you a place where the words look really nice on the page. I love this page where the dog is barking and the doorbell's ringing. And you see how beautiful the words look because the person who designed this made the words look really gorgeous. But I want you to know that when I start writing, when I start making my books, it looks like a big mess. It looks like this. There are doodles in all the margins. There are pages where, honestly, there's not even really very much writing. It's kind of just doodles. So I share this because I want you to know that the way that books are made is because people do them again and again and again. I start in my writer's notebook, and my writer's notebook is super, super messy. And then I keep going until I get to a point where my writer's notebook is a little bit better. And then I type it up on the computer and I edit it on the computer and I share my writing. If you are a writer, if you are a kid in school right now and you're thinking about how to make your words better, how to write better, one of the things I do is I share my writing with a friend. And when I share my writing with a friend, they tell me, oh, this part I liked, but this part you need to make better. It's always sort of the parts that are good, and then they tell me the parts that they think could be better. And what I do is I do it again. And I rewrite my book again and again and again until I get the words to where I want them. So that is something that we can all do in our writing. Muchísimas gracias a todos. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit more about me and learning a little bit more about A Sled for Gabo. I hope that you will go and get A Sled for Gabo from your public library, from Nowhere Books, from anywhere that you get your books in San Antonio. I hope you will get A Sled for Gabo. I hope you will read it. I hope you will look at all of the illustrations and especially at all the cute faces that all of the animals in the book make. And if you do, I hope that you enjoy reading this book. Y que lean muchos más. I hope you continue to read many, many more books. Muchísimas gracias. Adiós.